60 days, that's the countdown Y&R Slugga Tee put on the internet before walking out of a halfway house. The second those clips spread online,
The city asked one thing, is Yungeen Ace going to say something?
It's a lot of shit clear up.
the question isn't whether fans are talking, it's what Ace put on record, and you wouldn't believe what he said. Around late March 2026, Slugga Tee started posting from inside a halfway house, telling followers he had about 60 days left before full freedom.
So we all went again. You know what it is. 60 days left. You know what time it is. Bro came to see me. Yeah. Still behind the wall. You know.
The clips were short in them. He pointed to a countdown, said the wait was almost over, and told fans new music was coming. Some of them carried lines like 60 days left, you know what time it is, and countdown started, ready for new music. Pages like Florida Up Next grabbed the footage, and it moved across Instagram Reels, Facebook, and TikTok within days. By April through June 2026, the tone of those reposts shifted. Titles moved from 60 days left to Slugga Tee just came home, a sign the countdown had run out and he was closer to, or had reached, greater freedom. The excitement in the comments wasn't only about a man getting out. It was about what he'd do the second he had a phone, a booth, and no supervision reading over his shoulder. To understand why a countdown clip became a citywide topic, you have to know who Slugga Tee is. His name is Tyler Simmons. He comes from Jacksonville's North Side, and he's a founding member of the crew Young Ruthless, shortened to Y&R. His catalog leans hard in street tracks like Cuckoo, the raw interrogation video shot in the style of a police interview, and collaborations with his closest running mate, Y&R Mookie, including a Murda Twins remix that pulled in Pooh Shiesty. His whole persona is built on what the scene calls crash-out energy. Unapologetic, no blinking, the guy who was about that life before there was ever a microphone in the room. His fans don't treat his return as a new release date. They treat it as the return of that energy. His time away was long. He faced charges that included probation violations and was sentenced to around 7 years in the early 2020s. Over 2025 and 2026, reports tracked him through Duval County facilities, a transfer to state prison, and finally the halfway house where he filmed the countdown. Even locked up, his music kept circulating on YouTube and social media, keeping his name warm while his body was behind a wall. That's a Jacksonville specialty. The artist disappears, but the catalog and the legend keep working the room without him. So when he said 60 days, he was closing out most of a decade off the streets and stepping back into a rivalry that never actually ended, just paused, because Slugga's name does not travel alone. It travels with Yungeen Ace. For years, the two have sat on opposite sides of one of the most documented rivalries in the city. Ace's ATK, short for Ace to Kill, against Slugga's Y&R. Slugga back outside means Slugga can record again, respond to years of subliminals aimed at his crew, and reclaim a presence in Jacksonville that incarceration stripped from him. It also means the beef has a live participant again, instead of a name on a countdown. Fans immediately started asking whether he'd address Ace directly, whether Ace would respond, and who in the language of the streets is really outside. There's a crew dimension that makes the timing even sharper. With Mookie still tied up in his own case, and the whole landscape reshaped by Fulio's death, Slugga's freedom doesn't just add one voice, it can shift the balance of who's active, who's aligned, and who's expected to answer for what. In this scene, being home is a kind of authority. It means you can be seen, you can be reached, and you can be held to the words your crew put in the air while you were gone. That's why the countdown clips drew comments about Ace hiding and predictions of new beef music before Slugga had even dropped a single track. None of it required him to say Ace's name. The scene fills in the blanks on its own, and it had years of history to fill them with. That's the setup the internet built around the clips. A fighter walking back into the ring, and a rival everyone expects to have something to say, which raises the obvious next question: where did this thing between Ace and Slugga even start? And why does a release date carry this much weight? For that, you have to go back years, to a party, a shootout, and a night that changed everything for Yungeen Ace. The beef between Yungeen Ace and Y&R didn't begin in a recording booth. It began by nearly every street account on the ground in the volatile, tightly wound world of Jacksonville's neighborhoods, where reputation is currency and disputes rarely stay small. To understand it, you have to understand the man on the other side of it. Ace was born Keonta Tyrone Bullard in February 1998 in East Chicago, Indiana, and moved to Jacksonville as a child. He came up in a crowded house with his mother and 11 brothers on the city's west side, around the Melvin Road area, in the kind of poverty that hands a kid the streets before it hands him anything else. He said he was in that life young, and his music has always carried the weight of it. The most repeated origin story of the beef points to a party.
Rumors are that the beef between Y&R and ATK started over a fight at a party.
Slugga's right-hand man, Y&R Mookie, a rapper out of the Arlington neighborhood, was allegedly there. An argument caught fire, and the night collapsed into a shootout.
Mookie was grazed by a bullet, but he and Slugga Tee managed to shoot back.
And Slugga himself is no side character in this story. The people who break this beef down describe him as the real thing, someone born into it rather than performing it.
Slugga Tee is a menace who's really about that life.
Here's the detail that turned a street clash into a years-long war. According to the rumor that has followed this beef ever since, the person who tried to shoot Mookie that night was Yungeen Ace himself. Nothing about that has ever been confirmed. But in drill culture, confirmation isn't what keeps a story alive. Repetition is, and Mookie repeated it over and over in his music, folding the party, the graze, and the return fire into bar after bar until it became a franchise. His song Dead Ops alone turned that history into one of his biggest records.
Dead Ops currently has over 8 million views on YouTube.
He drove the point home visually too, leaving nothing to interpretation about who the shots were meant for.
In the video for the song, Mookie is seen burning the Ace of Spades card.
Y&R and their allies weren't operating alone in this. The crew ran adjacent to the circle of the late Julio Fulio, real name Charles Jones, whose KTA sat directly opposite Ace's ATK in the larger Jacksonville map. So Slugga wasn't just feuding with one rapper. He was on one side of a war that pulled in whole networks of neighborhoods, names, and grievances. And the ATK side answered in kind. Ace's camp produced the flashpoint record of the entire era, the 2021 viral track Who I Smoke, which flipped a soft pop sample into a taunt aimed at dead rivals and went gold while doing it. That song didn't cool anything down. It poured fuel on a fire that was already burning. That record is a window into how Jacksonville works here. The line between a song and a statement barely exists. Artists narrate real events, name real opponents, and mark real deaths, and the audience treats every bar as testimony rather than fiction. It's what gives the music its raw pull, and it's also what makes it dangerous, because the same lyrics that rack up millions of views become exhibits the moment a case gets built. Fulio understood that pull as well as anyone. As the face of KTA and Ace's most prominent rival, his catalog turned the ATK feud into a running storyline, followed far beyond Duval County, and his killing in Tampa in 2024 didn't end the conversation so much as harden it. Every side inherited fresh grief and fresh suspicion. So, by the time Slugga's countdown started, this wasn't a clean quarrel with clear edges. It was a decade-deep tangle of records, retaliations, and funerals, and Slugga was walking straight back into the middle of it. Then came the night that made the rivalry impossible to walk away from. On June 5th, 2018, Yungeen Ace and 3 others left a birthday celebration at Wasabi Japanese Steakhouse and were driving on Town Center Parkway. They stopped at a red light. Another car pulled alongside them and opened fire.
The 3 dudes he was with was killed. On June 5th, 2018, Ace got shot a total of 8 times.
The 3 young men with him, his younger brother Trevon Quan Bullard, and friends Royale Smith Jr. and Jacoby Groover did not survive. Ace has said in interviews that when he felt the bullets hit his hand, he tried to shield his friend, and that he woke up to the knowledge that he was the only one who lived. 8 bullets went into his body. He made it. Nobody in that car with him did. It became the defining wound of his life and the spine of his music. The survivor's guilt that runs through record after record, from Life of Betrayal, straight through the albums that put him on the Billboard charts. And there's one more chapter that kept the fire lit, even while the main players were locked away from each other. The part of this story that played out behind bars and in courtrooms, incarceration. Didn't pause this beef, it relocated it. Jacksonville's rivalries have a way of following their participants straight through the prison gates, and the years Slugga and the others spent locked up produced their own layer of lore. Some of it documented, most of it whispered. For Ace, the legal nightmare started in the same hour as the physical one. He survived 8 gunshots, but the ambush itself carried a cruel legal twist that shaped everything after it. A convicted felon from an earlier robbery charge, Ace couldn't legally be near a gun. And earlier that same day, he and his crew had been captured on camera inside a gun store.
Or purchased anything in the store, it was enough to revoke his probation, and Ace was arrested in the hospital.
A store owner recognized him from the news coverage of the shooting, called a Crime Stoppers line, and the security footage showing Ace holding a firearm, one he never fired or bought, was enough to revoke his probation. Police arrested him in his hospital bed, bullets still in his body, his brother and friends not yet buried. It's one of the most brutal sequences in the whole saga, and it's part of why so much of Ace's music sounds the way it does. The violence in this beef was never one-directional either. Long before the 2018 ambush, it had already reached Ace's own front door.
He said that someone shot up his house while his mom was inside.
In an old interview touring his old neighborhood, Ace pointed out the Melvin Road home where he says bullets came through the wall while he and Quan were in bed and his mother was in another room. Mookie's music would later be read as taking credit for shootings tied to that same address, which is exactly the kind of claim that keeps a war spinning long after the first shot. Slugga's name gets pulled into the jail chapter through one of Ace's closest affiliates, Kasu. For years, videos and street street discussions have claimed a physical confrontation between the two behind bars, with different versions crowning a different winner depending on who's telling it. KSOU, meanwhile, was facing charges far heavier than any jailhouse scuffle, serious murder cases carrying the possibility of life. But in a beef like this, the smaller story travels fastest, and Kesu and Slugga in jail became one more thread fans pulled on to keep the rivalry warm while its main characters were out of reach. Then the machinery of the law did what rival crews couldn't. Jacksonville authorities launched a gang takedown that swept up the Y&R side, and in a move that's become a hallmark of these cases, they turned the artist's own content into the case against them.
Got arrested in a Jacksonville gang takedown called Operation Wrap Up.
Investigators used social media posts and music videos as proof that convicted felons had been handling guns. Mookie was denied bail and locked up fighting his case. Slugga 2 was pulled off the board. For a stretch, the war between ATK and Y&R quieted, not because anyone squashed it, but because both of Ace's loudest antagonists were behind a wall, unable to record, unable to respond, unable to be outside. Operation Wrap Up wasn't a one-off either. It fit a pattern that's become routine in Jacksonville and beyond, where prosecutors treat a crew's online footprint, the videos, the captions, the tagged locations, as a roadmap, and where a viral verse can do more damage in a courtroom than it ever did on the charts. For young artists whose entire brand is authenticity, that's a trap with no clean exit. The more real the music sounds, the more useful it becomes to the people building the case against them. Mookie learned that firsthand, denied bail, and left to fight from a cell while his songs kept playing on the outside. It's the quiet irony under this whole rivalry. The same content that makes these names matter is the content that keeps taking them off the board. That silence is the context that makes Slugga's countdown loud. For years, Ace had the lane to himself. He signed with Cinematic Music Group, later linked with Geffen, and kept releasing Step Harder, Life of Betrayal 2X, Gold Certified Records national streams, while folding his trauma into music that charted. His rivals could only watch from inside. A locked-up rival can be dissed with no reply. A free one can answer. That's why the clips landed the way they did. It wasn't just a man announcing his release. It was, in the eyes of Jacksonville, a dormant front line about to reactivate. And it raises the question the whole title is built on. If Slugga's return reopens the door, has Yungeen Ace walked through it? Has he actually sent a message? To answer that, we have to look at the one place Ace has put his own words about Slugga into the world. With the camera rolling, here's where the speculation meets something concrete.
Yungeen Ace has, in fact, spoken about Slugga directly.
Not in a song, not through an affiliate, but on his own Instagram Live, talking straight to the camera. And that live is a full tour of the map of this rivalry. He opened by mocking rivals for adopting the KTA name, needling them over which side is really original.
You know about KTA, but I'm ATK, right?
He batted away accusations that he'd switched up on the artists he came up around, insisting his loyalty never moved.
I ain't switch up on no straight up.
He named the people he does claim, the ones he says are family regardless of what the internet decides.
I Lucha hard. Lucha my brother.
And he pushed back on the whole idea that music made him, arguing his reputation came from the street, not the studio.
Bitch, I was in the street now, 11 years old.
Then he got to Slugga. What he said was dismissal, not fear. He waved Slugga off, as someone who never pulled a trigger, a line engineered to strip away the exact street reputation. Slugga's fans celebrate.
Look, I ain't never shot no man in his life.
Then he went further, recycling an old accusation that Slugga only ever rode behind other people's names for clout, tying it to the fact that he'd never do a feature with him, and it wasn't a one-time mention. When commenters kept feeding him the name, he circled right back to it, acting like it barely registered, which is its own kind of insult.
Oof, it's Slugga. Nigga used to be on it like I forgot or something.
Slugga wasn't the only target. Ace taunted rivals. He claimed to have watched Freeze Up when he ran into them in person.
When they thought they seen the ghost, like real like you.
And when a commenter dragged his late brother into it, he answered with the coldest line of the whole broadcast, turning his own grief into a warning.
My brother might have died on his birthday, but bitch, do you want to die today?
He also made it clear he isn't looking away from any of it. He watches the diss videos aimed at him and files every one of them.
I'll be watching them bitches.
So on one level, the title is already satisfied. If the question is,
Has Yungeen Ace ever sent a message aimed at Slugga?
the tape exists. He named him. He belittled him. He did it publicly with intent. That footage lives online, and it's exactly the kind of clip that resurfaces the moment Slugga's name starts trending again, which is precisely what a release does. But notice what that footage is and what it isn't. It's Ace dismissing Slugga as a fighter and a name. It is not Ace responding to Slugga's 2026 homecoming. The live captures a posture, total dismissive, I don't know that man energy, that predates the countdown clips. It's the message Ace already had loaded, sitting in the chamber, ready to be reattached to whatever moment brings Slugga's name back around. In drill culture, a message is rarely a press release. It's a posture, established and re-established, that the internet repoints at each new event. The homecoming didn't create that message, it reactivated it. So is that fusion fair? Did Yungeen Ace really send a message to Y&R Slugga now that he's out of jail? Or is the story doing something more interesting than that? That's what the last piece comes down to. Here's the honest read laid all the way out. Start with what's solid. Yungeen Ace and Y&R Slugga Tee are real opponents in a real rivalry, and that isn't in question. Slugga is stitched into the origin story of the beef, the alleged party shootout, the returned fire, the years of Y&R records aimed at Ace and his camp, and Ace has, on camera, gone directly at Slugga, calling him scared, denying he was ever a serious street figure, claiming not to know him at all. A message from Ace to Slugga exists. That part of the title is true. Now the wrinkle. The title implies a specific sequence. Slugga gets out, and because he gets out, Ace responds that clean cause and effect is where the story gets shakier. The documented disrespect from Ace, the Instagram Live, the dismissals, reads as a standing posture, not a fresh reaction to a 2026 release date. There's no confirmed new diss track built around the homecoming, no new statement, no viral clip of Ace addressing the countdown specifically. What's circulating is older Ace footage and fan framing stitched onto a new event and repackaged as if it just happened. So which is it, true or false? It's both, and that's the point drill culture keeps proving. In this world, silence is a message. An old clip resurfacing is a message. Simply staying visible, dropping music, and refusing to acknowledge a returning rival is a message. By that logic, the logic the streets actually run on, Ace is absolutely sending a message to Slugga right now. Just not in the form of a fresh, made-for-the-moment diss. The message is the posture. I'm outside. I'm working. I already told you what I think of you, and your release changes nothing. Ace's stance towards Slugga was set long before Slugga's countdown, and his response to the homecoming is, functionally, to keep that stance and keep moving, which in a rivalry this cold can be louder than a new record, but the last word shouldn't be about clout, and this is where the story stops being fun. Behind every clip in this saga is a real cost. Ace's brother and 2 friends died in the 2018 ambush. Fulio was killed in 2024. Mookie has been fighting a case built partly on his own lyrics. And much of what fuels all of it remains rumor, street lore, and unconfirmed accusation, rather than anything proven in a courtroom, which is exactly why the smart move is to hold every claim loosely. The messages in this beef have historically arrived as gunfire and prison sentences, not just Instagram lives. So when fans ask whether Slugga's release reignites the beef, the honest answer is that everyone should hope it doesn't, because of what reignite has meant here before. Zoom out, and this stops being only a Jacksonville story. It's the shape of drill everywhere, a genre that documents pain so vividly it sometimes deepens it. Made by kids handed guns and grief long before they were handed options. The views, the reaction channels, the timelines like this one all feed an audience that consumes the danger as entertainment, while the people inside it live the consequences. That's worth holding on to while you watch this play out, because it's easy to flatten 4 dead young men and a decade of prison time into a scoreboard. The rivalry is real. So is everything it has cost. So final verdict. Did Yungeen Ace send a message to Y&R Slugga now that he's out of jail? In the literal sense the headline suggests, a brand new response triggered by the release. No clear evidence supports that yet. But in the way this culture actually communicates, yes, Ace's on-record dismissal of Slugga is the message, and his choice to keep it exactly where it stands while Slugga walks back outside is itself the reply. The countdown ended, the posture didn't move. In Jacksonville, that stillness speaks, so keep an eye on both pages. In a beef this cold, the next real message is only one upload away, and this time, everyone's watching to see who blinks first. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.